Lived in an oldish house in Whangarei. Was up late one night on good old MSN Messenger chatting rubbish. I had all the lights off because I knew I wasn't meant to be up that late. Something over my shoulder whispered, "What are you doing?" I looked over my right shoulder where the noise came from and nothing. Looked over my left shoulder and saw this figure walking into the kitchen. Another experience in the same house, I was listening to my CD player and sat on my bed. It turned off of its own accord. I thought it was just faulty, so I got up and turned it back on. Sat down on my bed and it turned off again. I got back up and turned it on again, and this time the lights flickered and the light, which hung from the ceiling, pinged up and down violently. Lastly, I didn't experience this personally, but according to my mom, there was some old guy singing in the bathtub one morning as she walked in. Strange house. My dad left us there for 6 months. Mom got her drink spiked one evening and came home one evening and started smashing windows to get in. It was across the road from Mare Park, a forested nature reserve, Charge Park, a place I saw a few strange apparitions moving across the paths, etc. Good times, lol. It's not too scary, but this is something I experienced myself. 2 years ago, I moved into my new apartment with my family and have a bedroom all to myself. For some reason, during the first year of staying there, I always felt like I was being watched in my room. Every single day, without fail, I'd know when it hits 2 a.m. exactly, even without looking at my phone to check the time. I'd just be doing my usual stuff and then suddenly feel like it's 2 a.m. and that someone is there. For some reason, it was clear to me that whatever was there was a young girl. No idea why I thought of that. My mood was worse. I'd feel weirdly agitated at all times. I'd start having issues with my mother too. At one point, a nun was invited to cleanse the house. I did not get good vibes from the procedure. My sibling felt the same too. Once she left, I immediately felt sleepy and slept, only to have sleep paralysis. Never had one of those in ages. Thought it was weird it happened on the day a nun came, and right after she left. Anyway, a few months later, I found out from my grandma that this house was bought over after a girl died in my room. She was a young girl too, probably in her 20s. Got the place because it was cheap. Felt bad for her. Apparently, she didn't have a good relationship with her mom. My relationship with my own mom was fine, but after moving in, it did deteriorate for a bit. I can't feel a presence anymore. Didn't do much prayers or anything to get rid of her, just wished her well, and that she deserved better. Then it was over. Moved west of the Cascades recently. We have been doing tons of yard work, cleaning out trash in the yard, digging out garden beds and repairing them, etc. Disturbing the yard may have done this? I don't know. Anyways. My spouse and I were sitting on the porch, looking at the stars. There is almost no light pollution. The only light around is from an elderly neighbor about an acre away, which is always on. We were watching the stars and heard a distinct humming very, very close to us in the pitch-black darkness. It was beautiful sounding and like luring almost, but immediately we turned tail into the house due to being raised with the knowledge that if you hear or see something, no, you didn't. What could this be? It definitely sounded deep, like a very deep-voiced man. The only thing that exists the way that the humming came from is a cow pasture, then mountain. Does anyone know any folklore? It was unnerving. I know I sound crazy, but there were no humans other than us nearby. A few weeks ago, my dad left home to go to work in Mindanao. I was excited since he was going to bring gifts such as food and toys. A week or two later, perhaps in the afternoon, I heard a familiar voice. It was my dad, and my mom was talking to him. I sighed and focused on my iPad. A few minutes later, my dad knocked on the door. When I opened it, I saw him. He wore a gray shirt. Why am I mentioning this? This is important later. Me and Dad hugged each other and talked for a bit. I don't remember much about the conversation, but I remember him saying, "Tomorrow, I'll show you something." He was acting really weird, but he's a weird guy, so I didn't mind it. After that, I went to sleep. A few hours later, I woke up in the middle of the night. I was a bit dizzy, so I went to get a glass of water. When I checked my parents' room, I saw that only my mom is there. I asked, "Ma, where's Dad? Did he leave?" "What? Your dad is still in Davao," Mom replied. I was flabbergasted. If Dad was still in Davao, then who did I hug? I explained to my mom about what happened, and that I literally heard her talking to my dad, but she denied it. The next morning, I talked to my mom about going to the mall. Mom was feeling unwell, so she said that Dad can let me go to SMA when he comes back. That's when the memory of what happened last night flooded back. I told her what happened again, and she was as shocked as me. Then she called my dad, explaining what I told him. I started freaking out when he said he was wearing a gray shirt the day before. A few weeks later, and I somewhat forgot about the experience. My mom walked up to me and asked if I went to their bedroom and opened the closet. I said no, and she said that she saw someone opening the closet. She didn't mind it since she thought it was me. And obviously, it wasn't. I stayed up all night so my friend who was living with me didn't leave the room. I didn't leave either since I was too busy watching TikTok. Dad thinks someone is haunting this area. I don't think the house is haunted since no one died in this house. Plus my dad built it. My theory is that an Encanto is toying with us. Encantos are deities or nature spirits that Filipinos used to worship and respect during the pre-colonial times. Although this theory could be easily disproven. Perhaps a gust of wind could have opened the closet. The only question I have is, who did I hug a few weeks ago? If it's not my father, then who is it? This happened about 20 years ago. My mom and grandma told me this story. My mom was pregnant with one of my elder sisters, or maybe just gave birth to one of them. Doesn't really matter. But she was very weak at that time and could barely do stuff on her own. Basically, she called her mom, so my grandma, to help her clean their flat. Dad was typically working all day, so my grandma got to work and started cleaning the flat of my parents, even though she was mentally very stressed herself. Recently, her two other kids in teenage years, so my uncle and aunt, had been fighting like never before, raising hands on each other and all that. But it was really, really bad. One even bruised the other really bad till they threw up. So at that time, home was really chaos for my grandma. Obviously, my grandpa was also working all day, every day. My grandma is an extreme perfectionist when it comes to cleaning, so she really cleans every bit of the home. She comes to an end when she wanted to brush off dust from the wall clock in the living room. As she removes the clock from the wall, a tiny sphere of aluminum foil falls from the backside of the clock. She was surprised by it and thought it strange, but just threw it away. She returned to cleaning, but couldn't stop thinking about what that was and why was it up there. She got curious and took it out the bin, and she threw it back again. It went like this for a few times, but she eventually picked it out again and decided to open the aluminum foil sphere. She found all kind of stuff there, all fitting into this tiny sphere. Nails, human nails, hair, some writings on some type of skin or leather, in Arabic I think, and even quicksilver. As she opened it, the quicksilver shattered and spread all over the table. She says there was nearly no way to collect it all again, but she still somehow managed to collect it. She was shocked and knew in what direction that was going, but who put that up there, and why, and what should she do with it? She called her mom to ask what to do with it. She had told her to flush it down the toilet. Apparently, it's better to burn it though. Time goes by and my grandma notices that my uncle and aunt aren't having these outrageous fights anymore. Yeah, siblings fighting is normal, but she thinks that this event is somehow linked to the little sphere she found. But who did it? So time went by and one day a relative from my dad's side somehow, don't know how it came to that, confesses that they did that. They put that piece of black magic up there. Apparently it should have kept the family of the person who did this together, but in turn sacrificed the peace of another household. I think the quicksilver packed into this little sphere symbolized the forced family bond of the person that put that behind the clock. Black magic or sihir is really a scary topic, especially because it can most likely only come from people close to you. And if any of you plans to do something like this, please don't. Even if you use it for something good for yourself, you're sacrificing another happiness for yours. Stay away from it. Stay safe.
Like, share, and subscribe. If you got videos or stories to share related to the paranormal, then do send them to us on this email.